Ferrari are finished. And can they rise like a phoenix from the flames? Honestly, a series of bad decisions from the Ferrari camp have made this the darkest time in Ferrari's Formula One history, according to Italian news outlets. Well, we are going to get into it. This is your today's F1 news. This is F1 Grandstand, and if you are an F1 fan, then yes, you're in the right place. Hit the bell, hit the subscribe button, and please, honestly, all the support you can give us makes a huge difference to the success of the channel. But let's get into it. So let's start with the drivers. Obviously, Charles Leclerc, what has been going on in his camp? Well, let's start with what his management are doing. Charles Leclerc's management right now are talking to other Formula One teams about a potential move for him out of Ferrari for 2027. Now, Charles Leclerc is Ferrari's golden boy. You know, they gave him one of the longest contracts in Formula One history. I believe it's like 2029. There are some exit clauses, though, for non-performance from the Ferrari team. And all we're seeing from Ferrari right now is non-performance, but we are going to get into all of it. But we're seeing signs now that Ferrari look like losing their golden boy. They never thought that could happen. But Charles Leclerc, he wanted to win a world championship in a Ferrari. But more than that, he just wants to win a world championship. So let's look at all the decisions that have got Ferrari into this absolute crisis, darkest moment. And let's join up all the dots. Well, let's start with Binotto. So he was Ferrari CTO and team principal 2019 to 2022 when he was replaced by their current leadership, which of course is Fred Vasseur. Now, Fred Vasseur has just been given an extension to his Ferrari contract. Whether you agree with it or not, that is what's happened. Fred Vasseur was responsible for bringing Lewis Hamilton over to Ferrari. Now, this is no way casting any shade on Lewis Hamilton. Why would you not want a 7-time world champion as one of your drivers, especially when Ferrari are not winning titles? But here's the big thing. Lewis Hamilton's won 7 World Drivers' Championships. But Fred Vasseur's worst decision or worst failing was he probably needed to sort out the car, because there's plenty of good drivers, but there's not that many good car designers. Adrian Newey was looking for a move out of Red Bull. Why didn't Fred and Ferrari put all their money and eggs in that basket to get a good guy to design them a good car? You know, Lawrence Stroll did the masterstroke. He took that 14-time constructor world title winning designer, Adrian Newey, to Aston Martin. Maybe Ferrari tried. Did they try hard enough? I don't know. But the one thing I know is paying Lewis Hamilton all that money, what is it, 40 million a year to secure him. You know what? You probably should have spent that money on Adrian Newey, because the team is in disarray. We've had Gunther Steiner telling us, because he's got good relationships with Ferrari, because obviously as ex-Haas team principal, and they supplied Haas with engines, he said the Ferrari team are in disarray right now. They are in 2 fractions. There's lots of engineers that are unhappy about the recruitment of Lewis Hamilton. They were happy with Carlos Sainz. But the big bosses don't want to admit that maybe that recruitment wasn't the right thing, because you brought in a driver like Lewis Hamilton who tells the truth. And what truths has Lewis Hamilton been telling? Well, let's just look at the last Grand Prix. In Singapore, after qualifying, Lewis Hamilton turned around and said, well, in qualifying, we made bad decisions. And when he says we made bad decisions, he's talking the team made bad decisions. And he was very specific. Mercedes were out on track first. Why is that significant? Because Ferrari put their drivers into a queue of cars to leave the pit lane where they lost 5 degrees in tyre temperature, which meant they couldn't be competitive in qualifying. And that car can be quick over a lap, but it's also over a Grand Prix. For that car to run effectively, it needs to be run at the correct ride height as that car was designed. But ultimately, over a 60 or 70 lap race, the car's going to finish the race illegally. It's going to have too much plank wear. So the entire design of that 5 car is dreadful. They tried to rectify it with new suspension, which hasn't really helped, because that new suspension may have given some performance enhancements, but because the suspension's so unadjustable, it means that the team cannot make adjustments to the car throughout a race weekend. And then we look at the fact of the other team decisions. So during a race weekend, when Hamilton's push at Singapore sets the fastest lap of the race, he's gaining 1.5 seconds a lap, he has catastrophic brake failure. So how come Ferrari didn't notice from their data that, hey, Lewis, you need to slow down? They did tell him 1 lap before those brakes blew up, Lewis, you need to manage your brakes. Now, we all know lift and coast was a strategy for Ferrari and other teams on the grid. Look after your brakes. But they allowed Lewis Hamilton to push for many laps. They even did a driver swap, allowed Hamilton to pass Leclerc to go on attack. Yet they couldn't tell him your brakes are about to explode. Another interesting problem at Ferrari. So let's put all this together. We also need to add in that Ferrari have lost their lead engine development engineers, Wolf Zimmermann, who was, I'll tell you his exact title, he was the project leader for the 26 engine. And they've also lost Lars Schmidt, who was a lead engineer for performance development, over to Audi. Now, these 2 engineers were building the power unit for 2026. You don't lose your lead engineers before they've even seen their power unit, their baby, in a Ferrari car on the grid in 26. The only reason why they leave, it is like rats leaving a sinking ship. And they revealed to the world that they hadn't even seen that engine on a bench, on a dyno. Ferrari is supplying Haas and Cadillac with engines in 2026. The rats are leaving a sinking ship. You've got Charles Leclerc's management looking at another alternative team that he can go to at his earliest exit points. Lewis Hamilton publicly giving and telling the world that, yeah, I gave a dossier to the team about how they need to improve race weekend performance with decisions, how the communication between the departments are not great, how the upgrades that we're requesting are not coming through and they're not good enough. He's openly said the team's a mess. Why is the team a mess? Well, we have to look at leadership. Now, the problem at Ferrari is it's run by a democracy. There's too many chiefs, right, interfering into how that team is run. Now, we all know the best way to run a Formula One team, whether you like it or not, is by a dictatorship. Frank Williams, Ron Dennis, Christian Horner, Toto Wolff, even Flavio Briatore, when he was at Benetton winning world championships, run as a dictatorship. Because somebody's got to make the decisions and someone's got to lead. You can't lead by democracy. You can't lead by committee. You need to choose your leader and have a strong leader to make those choices and run that team. Now, how can Ferrari rise like a phoenix from the flame? Well, honestly, I don't think Fred Vasseur is the answer. And I think the big bosses at Ferrari are seeing that as well. So what could they do? Well, they could go all out to try and get the only dictator that's available, Christian Horner. But that's highly unlikely because Christian Horner's looking for ownership of a team. Ferrari aren't going to give him shares. But they need a Horner to lead that team out of the ashes of where they currently sit, because 2026 is not going to be pretty. The writing is on the wall. It doesn't look good. How could they entice Horner over at Ferrari? Well, you find a way to give him some shares in the team, or find a leader who can lead that team. But right now, there are rats leaving the Ferrari ship, and they have no one to lead that team out of the darkness like a phoenix from the flame back to greatness. Because let's face it, we all want to see the prancing horse doing well, the Crimson Ferrari winning races. We love the brand, but honestly, it's the brand that's getting in the way, I'm guessing, of building a successful race team. And what about driver options? Well, of course, Mark Webber dropping bombs this week. I mean, the problems over at McLaren of seeing Oscar Piastri make noises like, well, you know, he's looking for his future move. Mark Webber said Ferrari could be a potential move for him in 2027. And he also said Oscar Piastri better get learning Italian. I mean, Webber is not backward in coming forward with his comments, but these are real situations where if Ferrari want to attract a driver as good as Oscar Piastri, who may leave McLaren, it may even be a crazy driver swap for Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri. But Piastri's not going to go to Ferrari whilst they're in their current state, whilst they can't deliver a car that can win a world championship. Why would he? Because Oscar Piastri is going to be your 2025 world champion, I'm sure of it. So, you know, Ferrari have got a lot to do. Right now, they look like they're finished, and it looks like it's a 3-year plan. Open heart surgery to get Ferrari back to the front. But they need to make tough decisions. They need to make big decisions, and it starts with the leadership. And from that point, you can get the team out of the ashes of where they are right now. Because right now, Ferrari are finished. And they're not going to be competitive in 26. The rats are leaving the sinking ship. They need to do something drastic to get that team back on track. And that might mean a change in leadership. That might mean recruiting somebody, maybe even from McLaren, to build them a car, to lead the design of the car. Because I'm not sure they've got those personnel in place. But they need to do something, and they need to do it quick, because all of us who are rooting for Ferrari to bring a strong competitive package to the grid, you know, we know you need to make drastic changes. We know it's open heart surgery, but you need to act now if you want to get a competitive car towards the end of 26 and going into 27. Because right now, things are looking very, very bleak. So hopefully we've joined some dots together for you. But join me tonight for my live stream at 7:30 UK time GMT. We'll be discussing all of today's F1 news. I hope to see you there. Please smash a like on the video and subscribe. It makes a huge difference to the success of the channel. And I will see you later. Ta-ta.